think we can start. So the next presentation will be now Julie Kiley from GM Financial Services, which she's the head of enterprise architecture there, will present about how to create inclusive architecture communities. I'm looking forward for this presentation. Julie, the stage is yours.
Excellent. Thanks, Radu.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Julie Kiley. I'm going to be presenting on how to create inclusive architecture communities. And really what I'm going to cover today are what are some of the challenges that we face with traditional architecture review boards? How should we overcome those challenges, or how can you overcome those? And how can you design your architecture community, or how can you participate in your architecture community with inclusivity in mind? So I'm just going to start with a little bit about me. I wasn't originally, it wasn't originally on my career path to be an architect. So I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about my journey. I actually started out as a software engineer, and I was an independent consultant as well. So I worked for about 20 years as an engineer. I became an independent consultant as well as a single mom, right? So I'm very familiar with some of the challenges that women face with work-life balance, right, as an independent consultant. And I was brought in at a consulting company on an assignment to program a new product. And when I was brought on as that consultant, I was driving platform changes in the data platform. I was changing their code management process and refining it and making it better. I was driving service-oriented architecture and service-oriented architecture standards. And the CAO came to me and said, look, Julie, I really don't need you to be driving all of this change as an outside consultant. I'd like you to come in as my chief architect. That's when I made the major career decision to move into architecture. And basically, I wanted to learn more about architecture, right, because I had always been a programmer. So I went back to school at Penn State University. I got my master's degree in enterprise architecture. And what I really learned is some of the things that I had been driving, some of the changes I had been driving as an engineer were exactly what architecture does. It's design high quality systems, right? So I stayed on at that company for approximately 2 years. I decided I needed a change. I wanted to go to a larger organization, and I really wanted a mentor, somebody that could help me understand exactly what being a chief architect was all about. I went to JP Morgan Chase, right, where I found tons of great mentors in the area as a chief architect, tons of great chief data architect, examples of what great architecture looks like. I worked there for 5 years, and then since I've left JP Morgan Chase, I've had various roles as director of enterprise architecture, director of data architecture, and chief architect opportunities. I'm currently the head of enterprise architecture at GM Financial. So what we do there is drive our North Star architecture delivery. We define reference architecture patterns and roadmaps. I run our architecture governance program. Basically, we ensure GM's application portfolio aligns to its strategy and objectives. So this forum I'm really passionate about. I'm a huge advocate for women in IT and women in architecture specifically. When I started in the IT industry over 30 years ago, there was very few women in IT, so we've come a very long way since when I originally started, but I'd say we also have a long way to go. So I'm really excited about being part of the change, and I hope all of you are as excited as I am to be a part of the change as well. Okay, so now I'm going to go a little bit, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to go skip ahead. I'm going to go a little bit into architecture review boards. So I've run numerous architecture review boards and communities of practice at various different organizations, and I've actually participated in even more. Some have been excellent, right? Some have helped the design improve. They've helped me improve as an architect. They've helped me think through a better design. And they've also just helped me improve by seeing successes and failures of other architects. Some not so much, right? So really, how many of you have had this experience where you take a design through architecture review and it's a team of architects evaluating your work? They may seem more interested in drilling you and showing that they're the smartest person in the room reviewing the architecture as opposed to being um, as opposed to, actually making sure that your design is sound. One of the things I found is architecture review boards can be ivory tower, right? Reviewers are often too disconnected from the work, and they can't really be pragmatic. Sometimes architecture review boards are too perfective. They're unable to iterate on the North Star architecture design that they want. And they may also be out of touch, right? They don't understand what the current state is. They aren't familiar with how we got here and where we need to go. And they aren't familiar also with the pressures that engineers have to deliver immediately. So often architecture review boards are also too academic, right? Reviewers have read through a new trend but haven't personally implemented it, or they might, and sadly, often they're not diverse enough, right? They're traditional old school boards. Representation isn't there, and sadly, representation um, from the same communities about the products that they're building, right? So they don't have the correct representation to understand the challenges that consumers of the product that they're designing. So what this often results in is participants really questioning the value, engineers not finding this helpful, and engineers really not wanting to return the next time there is a design decision. So worst of all, it's stifled collaboration and really stifling innovation. So how can we help solve this really? The right review board is inclusive, ensuring participants are heard. They make sure that the goal is to make participants succeed in their designs, and they encourage innovation while adhering to standards. So I wanted to go through some benefits of a community-driven architecture review board. When I say community-driven, those goals are really around developing social capital, nurturing new knowledge, stimulating innovation, and sharing knowledge, right? Um, the benefits of a design review board are really well known, right? Delivering designs in an agile fashion. And I've heard people say, let's get rid of the architecture review board. It's really a waterfall thing where we deliver agile. But I would contest that that's not really the case, really. When we take designs through architecture review, we ensure those designs are loosely coupled. We assure those designs are high quality, and that helps ensure that teams can deliver in an agile fashion. So they really promote agility. They don't stifle agility when they're done right. Review boards lower our risk, right? They ensure we have the right non-functional requirements in place. They ensure we have maintainability, scalability, availability, security, all of those great abilities that lower our risk. They enable innovation, right? The boards understand the trends that are happening in the industry, and then they make sure that the solutions give us that competitive advantage. And it really, then one of the major things that it does when you have an architecture review board where the business is involved is it ensures technology is involved in making decisions around vendors and vendor products. And that's really important. So what makes a review board community driven, right? Well, often it's in the name, right? Think very carefully when you're naming your board, right? A board represents governance, and sometimes it represents governance for governance sake. When you name when you name it a community, community connotates community, right? Community connotates like-minded individuals with a common cause, right? So be intentional in your naming. Is it a board? Is it a community? Is it a council? Make sure you name your group how you want it to be perceived. Architecture communities are set apart from other architecture review boards with a couple of different factors. One is about thoughtful representation. And thoughtful representation really comes in many shapes and sizes, right? Think through diversity of skill sets. Do you have cyber involved? Do you have data involved? Do you have other architects with subject matter expertise? Do you have the right engineers as a part of your board, right? Are you involving the business? So you should have the representation there on the design decisions on who is directly affected by your architecture decisions. Is the board composed of individuals that can represent those decisions? Another thing that you want to consider is the culture and values of your company. So I'm gonna scroll up a little bit and show these are the core values at GM Financial. And we their core values include integrity, right? Winning with integrity, teamwork, partnering with other collaborators, team membership, and fostering communities. And they specifically call out as one of their core values inclusion. And so this is a core value that we should carry through to our architecture design communities as well. Oh, sorry. Sorry, too much flipping. So what is the framework for achieving a successful architecture community? And how do we make our reviews feel like a community? One is with inclusive decision making. So inclusive decision making requires encouraged participation, right? Not always the same person providing feedback for all of the designs, for example. Allowing different ways for members to engage is another example, right? And allowing them to speak and ask questions, enabling chat. Maybe maybe you have a lot of introverts, right, that are part of your architecture community. Are you providing an opportunity for them to pre-read the material and opine ahead of time? So those things are really important to ensure an inclusive space. Um, act, Active engagement, right? Save time for questions as part of your architecture community. And do you have a diverse range of voices in the decision-making process? Also, feedback mechanisms. Retrospectives are very important and they should be encouraged, right? You should have a retrospective for your meetings, right? On what's going well and what needs to change about your community. And then the other thing is recognition and celebration, right? So often in design reviews, it's kind of seen as a negative. The design review focuses on everything that needs to change about the design. Make sure you take time to shout out, right? Innovative patterns that should be proliferated, right? Celebrate patterns that make a difference, right? If the pattern makes it a difference in cost savings or in customer satisfaction, or even in risk reduction, right? Make sure that those patterns are shout out and sort of acknowledged as a win. And then the other thing that I would recommend is always design with inclusivity in mind, right? And that starts with creating a diverse panel. Include subject matter experts from all aspects of IT, including business. One thing to think about is, are you designing a global solution? And do you have the right representation from non-US countries, for example? Are your architecture review sessions in the middle of the night for those participants, right? So that's something to think through, right? What time zone should you be having your architecture review sessions? And does it make sense to have one that's early morning and one that's late afternoon to accommodate various different time zones? Foster inclusivity, and what I mean by this is mentor individuals that are less experienced into the role and encourage all types of learning, right? Not just traditional learning where you have a senior leader to a junior mentee, right? Also encourage peer learning as part of your reviews. Encourage junior innovators, right, to teach seasoned professionals and things that they are subject matter expert in. And that really helps have everybody be included. Universal design principles are critical in architecture reviews, right? Incorporate guiding principles that help steer architecture designs. And my recommendation is don't have too many, maybe 5 to 7 principles. Make sure the principles are simple enough to understand easily and simple enough to memorize so that we can ensure adherence to it on all your architecture designs. So a good universal design principle that we incorporate at GMF is reuse before buy, before build. Easy to memorize, easy to apply, right? When it comes to leadership advocacy, this is one of the most important aspects of your board or community, right? Socialize your community and socialize it at the right levels. Make sure your CIO supports your community. Make sure the senior business leaders understand its value, right? And if leaders question its worth, use that as an opportunity to socialize your platform even more. So your architectural community engagements starts before your review day and it really ends after your review day, right? Um, Let me take a little bit of time on how you can help any presenter in your architecture review community to be successful. You can have a concierge program where you assign an architect to assist that person through the process if they're new to it, right? A community should offer support to all of its presenters. Pre-review process should be conducted by the concierge, and that concierge offers guidance and support, right? They answer design related questions from the presenter. They offer consultation services, just like they're a consultant, where they provide suggestions on how to make the design more powerful. They review the design ahead of time and they provide templates that the presenter can use, as well as examples that are relevant of successful designs that are similar to what what the presenter is presenting. One thing that you should know, right, is your concierge also can be very direct, right? Clear is kind, right? If there are gaps, they should probably say this design probably won't fly, right? Or they should provide impact analysis type of um, information, right? They understand the industry trends. They should suggest ahead of time. This would make a more powerful design. Here are some alternatives you might want to think about. Um, and they might also say, hey, by the way, you're most likely going to be challenged about this design aspect, right? This is where you're most likely going to be challenged. You know, how are you going to respond to that challenge? During the architecture review presentation, the concierge should be there, right? They should be able to advocate for the presenter, especially when the presenter is not as technical as the architect itself. They should be there to ensure the presenter has the right horsepower to achieve what their design and to be able to apply any takeaways. Finally, I want to sum this up with why, oh, sorry, why women involvement is critical in this process. So we all know currently women are underrepresented in IT, about 28%. This number has gone up significantly. As you know, when I graduated from college, it was closer to 10%. So we're making strides in this area. But even sadder, right? Women represent just under 14% in the enterprise architecture community. And this is so important because our enterprise architects set the technical direction for the firm. They govern the technical direction. They govern the technology portfolio. These are very important roles that the enterprise architects play, and we're underrepresented. This is a massive responsibility. And the enterprise architecture role is a leadership role, right? We ensure through in other areas of the country leadership roles. For example, 25% of our senators are female now, but still only 14% of our enterprise architects are female. So now let's start talking about how many women are on architecture review boards. Well, now that number gets cut in half again. So we're looking at just about 7%. And by the way, I only found one source that was even willing to opine on the average number of women in enterprise architecture on architecture review boards. The figures are really scarce. It hasn't been really studied all that much. All sources, however, indicate that there's a greater need for diversity on enterprise architecture review boards. And really, general trends indicate women are significantly underrepresented in these areas, from Forrester and LeanIX and others. So, and I look at the review boards that I've assembled in the past, and I also have some work to do to ensure that diversity of our architecture review boards. So my advice moving forward is, as enterprise architects, you all play a critical function to ensure the success of your company, right? Get engaged in your architecture reviews. Create your own community of practice, specializing in your area of expertise. And most importantly, be a mentor to help other women in enterprise architecture do the same. Thanks so much. I'll open it up to any questions if anybody has any questions. Thanks. I'm seeing a couple of notes on the chat. So great, great, Amanda. Can you speak a little bit more about feedback mechanisms in collaboration? So one of the things that I like to do is to provide a survey. I do a survey every year, not just of my enterprise architects, but I also do a survey on the architecture review boards. And I allow that really important. I allow that survey to be anonymous, right? I really just want to collect the feedback and understand how I can grow and improve the board, and what things they like and what things that we should get away from. Yeah, I can also share my contact information to the chat as well. I also believe it's on the site, but feel free, anybody that would like to, feel free to link to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to continue to grow my network. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you very much for the great presentation, Julie. It was a great one. Thank you very much. If you have additional questions, you can reach Julie on chat, or how about that now it's coming the networking break, you can contact her there. And yeah, as I said, the networking break is coming, so you can contact whoever you want and how you want. So please, let's take this opportunity. After the networking break, we're gonna come back to the panel discussion, which will be, I hope, interactive one, and we have great presentations there also. Thank you very much.